Dispatch, a show about celestial bodies, earth bodies, time, experience, and the relationship between all of them. I'm your host, Cory Nakasue. And hey, how's it going? We have a great show for you today. We have a new moon in Virgo, and Mercury is stationed direct in the sign of Virgo as well, coming up this week. And I want to give you the lowdown on that. But before I get into that, I just want to remind y'all that today's show is the last Radio Kingston show that I'm doing. I had to sacrifice something from my schedule, and unfortunately, it was doing a weekly show. The Cosmic Dispatch will be back in the winter in some form on streaming platforms and on YouTube. And in the meantime, if you'd like to catch up on some missed episodes, there are about 100 episodes in the archive. Most of them have evergreen content about all kinds of astrological events and great guests. And if you'd like to weigh in on our new format and tell us some of the things you'd like to see or hear, shoot us an email at thecosmicdispatch@gmail.com. And I'm entertaining pretty much anything: a monthly overview, lunation coverage, evergreen educational content about planets, signs, houses, aspects, asteroids, Q&A shows, or live readings. I mean, I'm pretty open to everything except a weekly show. And you can check our Instagram or YouTube or any of the streaming platforms that you listen to your podcasts on for info about our return. Yeah, had editing the schedule, a very Mercury retrograde Virgo kind of thing. I also want to thank my colleagues here at the station who have taught me so much about this thing called live radio, which is such a different animal than like doing a podcast or like I'm an actor, I'm a performer as well. It's very similar and also very different from doing any kind of live performance. So it was a huge learning event for me. And also, the weekly practice of preparing a show was a boon to my astrology practice. I feel like it really challenged me in ways I would not have challenged myself to broaden my perspective on the practice. And it also gave me a new avenue to connect to my community. Also, want to thank my engineer, Malcolm Byrne, who's been keeping me company for the past almost 2 years, who's probably like the best dressed person I know, and also every single guest that's been on this show. And of course, I cannot forget thanking Mandy Sheeler, Brent Felker, and Lisa Walls, who help process the episodes and get them out there so all of you can see them and hear them. And as far as content creation is concerned, you can still read my monthly horoscopes in Chronogram magazine. And I have 2 live events coming up for Libra season. First one, on September 19th, I'll be giving a lecture about the autumnal equinox for the Golden Dome School's fundraiser called the Resurrection of Care. There'll be some awesome presentations, like really, really awesome speakers that I'm looking forward to listening to, and practitioners offering various modes of care in the form of divination practice, and I think there might be some offerings of energy work, somatics, breath practice. And this takes place at Honey's Brooklyn from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. And all proceeds from the event go to the Golden Dome's programming, which is incredible. They support work that's at the intersection of mysticism, the arts, and ecology. And you can find more info about this event and about the Golden Dome School at www.golden-dome.org. And you can even donate directly on the site and check out previous recordings of workshops, lectures, and other events. And on the 23rd, I'll be giving another equinox talk at Opus 40, along with other artists sharing music and sound baths and maybe even some stargazing if the night is clear. I'll also be reading some excerpts from my new book, The Cosmic Event of the Body, if you're into poetry and experimental writing. And just a heads up, there are some plans in the works for a Cosmic Dispatch live program during Scorpio season. And at the moment, we're in the early stages of planning, but at the moment, it looks like Mandy Sheeler and I will be out in the California desert doing very scorpionic things with our friends at Bonita Happenings in November. And again, you can keep up to date with my offerings on my personal Instagram, the Cosmic Dispatch Instagram, and on my website at astrologybycory.com. And I'm currently booked for consultations until mid October. But if that's something you think you might want to do this Scorpio season, I would book now for that time. Okay, now that that's out of the way, and speaking of wonderful guests, I have Luke Simon here with me in the studio today. And Luke, I asked you here, first of all, because I thought it was a great excuse to have a conversation with you
Mm.
about your work and about the space that you steward, which would be North Node Space here in Kingston, and that the work you do seems to support a lot of the objectives of the sign of Virgo, which
Mm.
is the season we're in. So,
Yeah.
welcome, Luke.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And before we learn all about Luke, I'm going to briefly delineate the astrology of the week. Today's astro weather report will be brief because there's just two big events this week that I want to cover. And Luke, feel free to chime in
Okay.
or ask questions
Great.
if you're moved to. By
Yeah.
any chance, do you have a lot of Virgo in your chart or do you know?
I do not, but my
Okay.
mom is a Virgo, so
Okay.
I feel like I love Virgos.
Okay. So you have some Virgo experience.
Yes, I do.
Okay. All right. Let's do this. So this week it's all about the 14th and the 15th of the month. So later towards the week is when we're going to have our big like Virgo energy swell. It's in play right now, but that's when it's going to peak. And this week really just is all about Virgo. On the 14th, we have a new moon in Virgo that is configured to all three outer planets, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. And by the way, they are all retrograde. In fact, most of the planets are retrograde now in general, except for the very inner planets of Venus, Mars, and now Mercury. And in general, things are going to be moving slow for the rest of the month. But this new moon in Virgo is almost making a desperate plea to the outer planets to help out with something that we're working on. And the things we're working on successfully are quite small. We're taking baby steps and focusing on the details. This new moon starts a new cycle, but it does so with great consideration. It wants those first baby steps to be intentional. So don't rush yourself over the next 2 weeks. Take your time, initiate something, take your time to initiate something, or initiate in the most humble of ways. We're getting granular here with Virgo. Now, Neptune in Pisces is opposing this new moon, and it's going to challenge the sun and moon in Virgo by trying to throw it off course by way of delusion, escape, or distraction. It's like Virgo is sitting there trying to do its daily meditation, and Neptune wants to fall asleep or watch a movie, or it may try to fool Virgo into getting emotionally attached to an outcome that really just stresses Virgo out. And then Virgo thinks it needs to do all sorts of grandiose, ill conceived, or unnecessary things. But on the plus side, it'll give this new moon a sense of purpose, especially if one of your projects includes helping other people. healing your body, um, healing your mind, or making baby steps to heal a relationship.
Mm.
And Uranus has a major influence in this new moon situation as well. And I really love this. This is very helpful. Uranus and Taurus makes a supportive trine to the new moon. We have an earth trine going on here. So we're looking for this new moon in the practical dimensions of our lives, the nuts and bolts of a project, our very bodies, our health. There may be some surprise help or unexpected epiphany that brings some clarity to a situation. And because it's Uranus, it may be a little unorthodox or a lot unorthodox or just very unique in some other way. It's a curveball, but it's one that ends up helping you out if you go with it. A little bit like hand of God just reaching down and, reorienting a situation. Uranus with this new moon is saying, keep doing your grounded and meticulous work with no expectations except for the satisfaction of doing good work. But you might need to change something about how you do it. And that's what Uranus will be there to help you to do. There's a lot of this work smarter, not harder vibe in here. And the following day, on the 15th, Uranus perfects its trine to the sun. There's some genius in this aspect. So stay open, but keep plugging away. Also on the 15th, Mercury stations direct in Virgo.
Sigh of relief. Ah,
We're going to talk about a couple different retrogrades when
nice.
we start
All
our
right.
conversation.
Nice.
Um, well, and I don't know about you, but this Mercury retrograde actually was quite productive for me. No, things did not move fast, but also no major hiccups. There was a ton of admin and correspondence and scheduling and rescheduling, a lot of wrapping up of loose ends, finally getting to the dentist, finally making that physical therapy appointment. It was like getting to all the stuff that keeps getting pushed to the bottom of the to-do list. And like in my case, like months of going back and looking at all the stuff
Mm.
I pushed to the bottom of the to-do list. And while it wasn't, this Mercury retrograde was not any kind of party time, um, but there's some big relief and a sense of well-being that happens when you do a deep clean, whether that's of your teeth, your bathroom, your schedule, your inbox, or even your heart or your mind. And you then just feel like things run smoother and more efficiently with less effort. And since Mercury was configured to Jupiter during its retrograde, if you did some of these things, there could be some really great benefit incurred as Mercury picks up speed as it goes direct. And this Mercury station happening right after the new moon, that just underscores this idea of getting off on the right foot towards the end of the week. Making that move, even if it's a small one, after careful planning or getting some of your ducks in a row, um, beneficial. And now some of you might be thinking, okay, Cory, that sounds so normal and so small, very pedestrian. But the world is in crisis. Everyone I know is sick. Our planet is burning up. Where is the astrology that represents that? And to that I say, oh, it's there. It's there in those retrograde planets. Those conditions are holding those slower moving planets that had inception points, especially Saturn and Pluto, Jupiter and Saturn back in 2020, back in 2021. We're just at the beginning of the story for those types of larger stories, those environmental um, situations We're just at the beginning of those. So that's the outer planet story, and those conditions are holding. But the inner planets are more personal, and those are moving forward now. And they represent the things that are more under our control. They represent things that we have more agency over. And right now, what's supported, according to these faster moving direct inner planets, is mindfulness, right action, thoughtful consideration, meaningful improvements, and sustainable efforts. In fact, those are the things that are, I think, more important than ever. These are the things that become imperative in times of great turbulence and confusion. So, Luke, any any thoughts about this
Mm.
last Mercury retrograde?
I'm just nodding in appreciation of that reminder of the things we can control, and that um, it feels like a confirmation of needing to take extra good care of myself as we deal with these big, wider global issues that
Yeah.
can be so ungrounding and make us feel really overwhelmed. And I think that finding that balance of, yeah, like it's okay to take care of ourselves and eat good food and figure out how we can sleep well and do these kind of hygiene, mental health hygiene type of things.
Yeah, and like you're saying, okay, sleep well, eat good food, and I talk to people and they're like, "Oh, that's it? That's so small." And it's these are the basics that all these larger things are built on. It's the chop wood, carry water types of practice to maintain our very constitution, right? And our ability to have intentions and think clearly and feel clearly about the actions we take. So our actions aren't, just reactions,
Yeah.
right? Basically. And also, I got because I'm on your mailing list now,
Yeah.
because we've been emailing, I got a newsletter from you. And there was something in the newsletter that made me think of this past Venus retrograde.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. You mentioned some undergroundedness.
That's right. So I'm um, deep in this theme of the underworld, Anana, the Venus retrograde. It's something it actually is related to my book, Venus Juice, has a Anana sort of subtext
Ooh.
because that was the Sumerians, that was how they saw the change of Venus from the morning star to the evening star, is that it was related to this goddess who went through this intense story that has to do with our inner trauma and dealing with our shadow self. And so this underworld that I was in this summer was kind of corresponded to Mercury retrograde. For me, it had to do with a lot of emotional things that corresponded with getting a tick-borne illness
Man.
that we all know in this local area brings so many of us into these like amazing healing, periods of our life where we just have to slow the F down and just you can only do the bare minimum and you have to take such good care of yourself. And a couple of my friends have said things like, it made me learn how to be in complete gratitude of every day of life. Another friend said it helped her really learn how to take care of herself. So I think that that was definitely, hearing you talk about the end of Mercury retrograde, it feels like it was a time in the past few weeks of really slowing down and simplifying. And I feel like I learned to just do less and be okay with not feeling like I have to be on top of every single thing in world news or, all these projects that we're working on to improve things, or um, learning to kind of balance the inner world with the outer world. And I like that you can see it in the planets, the inner planets and the outer planets, and that kind of that landed with me, like this feeling of the inner planets and Venus being an inner planet, and um, this really emotional and heart-centered planet that has been a goddess in many different cultures. So yeah.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing that. It echoes, and I had an underground journey.
Mm,
Lots of people I know, lots of clients and friends. It was like it's the images like once June and July happened, um, like people just like going, "What's happening?" And
right.
everyone just like getting pulled underground. It
Yeah.
was it was it was
Hmm.
intense. And so luckily, Venus is now morning star. We can see her, and Mercury and Venus are starting to gain some speed as September goes on. And so we might start feeling like we're climbing back out, or we can start like using our bodies with some kind of efficacy again.
Definitely.
So
And a sense of rebirth that comes from these
totally.
cycles. I think that, the underworld experience, and then you come out and you're like, I'm alive. I'm back.
Totally. Well, we're not going to the underworld, but we do have to take a short break. And when we come back, we're going to spend more time with Reiki breathwork practitioner, yoga teacher, artist, writer, and steward of the North Node space here in Kingston. Luke Simon. We'll be back in a couple minutes. You're listening to The Cosmic Dispatch. I'm your host, Cory Nakasue. And with me in the studio today is Luke Simon.
Hello, hello.
Hello. So we've already learned a little bit about your summer,
Yeah.
but
Mm,
could you introduce yourself and
sure.
tell us about your work?
Hi. I live here in Hurley. I opened a studio nearby the radio station. It's called North Node Space, and it's actually in the building where the art walk is. There are a lot of artists in the shirt factory. It's on Cornell Street. It's a small dance studio with beautiful windows. And so I've been doing yoga and breathwork and meditation um, since college, basically. So about 20 years. And just felt the need to have a physical space again to do this healing work. Um, for me, it's related to my creativity and my writing. That when I'm able to get into a relaxed state, everything flows, whether it's my creative work or my friendships or relationships. Um, the yeah, when things are all over the place and I feel completely overwhelmed, I can turn to my practice. So it's just something that has never left me. I feel like I've been like a bee pollinating into many different, creative pursuits, and I've done music and writing, and but the spiritual practice and the yoga has always been like the root and the foundation for me.
Hmm. And what made you feel like you needed to have a space, like a dedicated physical space?
It felt like the world is dissolving into the digital space. The world is the world is dissolving into the internet. And while that is kind of sci-fi and cool, and I'm kind of into it in some way, like um I think that we found this um just desert of physical contact and physical touch, and the physical experience is actually having this renaissance of like, whoa, we're actually here together, and this is amazing that there's so much more, so many dimensions that happen when we come together, and the spontaneity that comes together, not to mention co-regulation and the heart vibration and the nervous system vibration. It's kind of like when you go to see live music, it's like a million times more amazing than just listening to,
Right.
whatever. So, um, physical world.
Yeah. Oh my God. I hear that so much. And I don't feel personally, I don't feel like I'm like all the way back because there've been so many holdovers.
Yeah.
And even, if you feel safe to go out in physical space and do that a lot with people, now it's just kind of easier. It's like I could just hop on Zoom and it's definitely, yeah, it changes things. And I like that you mentioned the co-regulation, because all that digital stuff, whether it's social media, anything that's like mediated by the screen, you're getting information, but you're not really experiencing anything
Yeah.
with, like we privilege it. We think you get the information, right? You get the words, you get the ideas, you get the communication, but that's like 10% of experience.
Mm,
There's all the other things we can't quantify that
yeah.
actually make the experience and
Mm,
give it a lot more meaning, because we are like absorbing it through our bodies. So thank you for going out on a limb and like opening like a physical space. I know that's an undertaking.
mm.
Um and so I was wondering also, your Instagram handle and your website are both titled Luke Simon Mystic. And I was just
Mm.
wondering, like, what your take on mysticism
Yeah.
is. There's a lot of definitions
Yeah.
of mysticism.
I love this topic, and it's something that I don't define it enough because I think that's what I like about the word mystic is that it is a little bit beyond a definition. It has a connotation of something that is difficult to know. And I wanted my work to be met by people in this space of not knowing and of being open to understand that there are mysterious things without having to be like overly esoteric and sort of having it be like this, oh, I'm so deep, I'm so esoteric. But that in all the things that I've studied and all the things that I share with people that have helped me on my path, there is an element where you come to the unknown, and that takes it brings you into your fears, it brings you into your imagination, it brings you into your intuition, it brings you into the subtle world where spirit and the physical world interact. So I wanted to say all of that in a word. Um, and I didn't love the word healer because that makes it seem like I'm going to heal people. And I didn't like the word teacher because that feels like it was eh, too heavy, too heavy. Like I'm just a student also. We're all just students. And I think we need to be creating these non-hierarchical communities. And so I was looking for like a way to call myself something that could express that I've studied things without it being, whatever. And so I've been using Mystic.
I I love what she said about, it being more of having more connotations than a meaning. When I was thinking, because I was like, what does mystic mean? And I started thinking about it, and that's exactly what I thought. I'm like, that has more connotations than actual definitions. And then you just basically affirmed that, yeah, that's what it's about. It's contextual, and it's about cultivating or dedicating yourself to cultivating relationship with just that, the mysterious, and retaining and maybe even like elevating, honoring um that which is mysterious,
Mm.
instead of mystery. Well, we need to figure out what that is,
Yeah,
and start to, like,
definitely.
we need to solve that. It's like having this complete other relationship with the mysteries. And so thank you for answering that.
Mm.
I really liked hearing about that. And you also do some divination work. Do you do some tarot?
Yeah. Uh, Tarot helped me to learn that there's a lot that's always giving us information and that every moment is alive with this guidance. And when you pull the cards and whatever card you pull is the right card. And sometimes I would put the card back and try to pull again and get the same card. And that's when I knew that there was something going on with tarot and something. I think that it shows us something about life and the universe and the mystery, and divination being like practices that guide us and show us that. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And so do you do readings?
Sometimes.
Kind of like informally?
Yeah, I do them for people. Some people.
Okay.
I don't know. I think that one of my hesitations about giving sessions is that there are so many different ideas that people come in with when it comes to readings. A lot of people um, have experienced psychics, and they come wanting these firm answers. And I found that all the readings I gave were always like and you're being shown that the pathway is taking these different steps, and there's like guidance, but it's not as simple as yes or no. And
Mm.
I think that I want to be more, connecting with people and, knowing them in community. And then I think that sometimes through those friendships and those relationships, there's, divination and stuff comes comes through. But yeah, and I think as a being someone who offers this type of work, I think it's a you have to kind of give that background and that information to people. And so I think that maybe in the future I will return to offering more sessions with more of like, this is what to expect.
Mm, wonderful. Something to look forward to.
Mhm.
And I'm gonna have a little, what is this?
Yes, the
Moment.
prop.
For those of you who are just listening, I have Luke's book, Venus Juice, When I Tried to Live in LA, in my hand. Um, could you tell us about this book?
So I wrote this beginning in when I lived in Woodstock. I in 2017 I got this idea that LA was going to solve all my problems, and I left to LA, and I had lived this really daydreamy, sunshiny life for a couple of months, and then I got a job at a juice shop, and then I started to kind of spiral into the same problems that I had in New York. So I think it's my hope is that it's sharing things I learned and parts of my spiritual path in a way that's entertaining and um, kind of juicy. And I think my idea of juice is that you're distilling all of the extra stuff and you're just taking out the essential part. So that's my idea of like writing, is that there's something that happens to us in our day-to-day life that there's something in it for us through the
Mm,
creative process. Like there's
mm,
something to be distilled, or there's something that happens with our energy when we commit to doing something again and again. Gardening, yoga, family, like all of these things are like there's something that's created from it. And
mm.
so that's like the idea for me of juice. And the juice for me in my life is the writing. That's what comes out of me. But that was also the name of the juice shop that I worked at, the organic green juice place.
It's called Venus Juice?
It was called something different, but that's what I call it in the
Okay.
book.
Okay.
Yeah. So um yeah, it's basically this kind of wild journey through LA and spiritual lessons, and has a lot to do with the wellness world and these kind of, you know, our misperceptions about the spiritual world and wellness culture. And um, for me, a lot of misperceptions around love. And those were the
Mm,
lessons I was brutally learning in this book, and took me into that underworld of like the Venus cycle of kind of seeing your own self and through the relationship, and seeing difficult things about yourself that you can blame on other people, but eventually you have to kind of look at yourself.
wow. That sounds like quite the journey. It sounds like also a very like Venus underworld journey.
Yeah.
Um, where can people find this book?
So the book is on Amazon. The book is it came out in 2021, and it's funny as an artist how once you do something, you spend so much time with it, and then you're sort of like Okay, next. So in some ways I need to buy more copies and else I should sell it at my studio and I should have some more copies, but right now the only place you can get it is on the internet.
Okay.
Maybe some bookstores have it, but that's usually where I send people. Yeah.
And and also I saw on your Instagram stories, is there a Pluto juice in the works?
Yeah, so that will be the next sequel of uh we'll see if the name sticks, but
Okay.
it will be about living in upstate and learning about nature and specifically about death in nature as being I think that I think we all do this like nature as being this beautiful serene like healing place with wildflowers and golden light and then living upstate for 3 years and since 2020, I've had so many like funny moments of just like the brutalness of nature and um, coming to Earth, and again, just more illusions. I think so much of my spiritual path is about seeing through illusions and disappointments, and through that, like the liberating of the mind actually being a path of disappointment. Because when you're in the mind, it's these ideas and these illusions, and then you see through them and you get more clarity.
Mm.
Um, so something like that, part of Pluto, what Pluto juice will be so far.
Oh, I can't wait. That sounds amazing. Yeah, I know it, and it is beautiful living up here. But then I've also had, decapitated like bunny heads on my driveway, and and I've seen like vultures, tearing apart a dead deer, like, around. Like it's just you're in contact with
Yeah.
that. We have like a 6-foot snake somewhere on our property,
Wow.
and we found this like long 6-foot snake skin. Like it,
Amazing.
you're confronted
Yeah.
with the brutality and the all the death and decay that then creates such like astonishing beauty
Yeah.
as well. It's yeah. Well, I can't wait for that one. I
Yeah.
can't wait to read this one. We have to take a short break, but
Okay.
when we come back, more with Luke Simon. You're listening to the Cosmic Dispatch. I'm your host, Cory Nakasue, and with me in the studio today is Luke Simon. And we just finished talking about his book, Venus Juice, which I can't wait to read. Um,
Mm.
and so we talked a little bit about the North Node. I'm interested in learning more about the North Node. What kinds of things go on there, like
So
classes,
yeah, so
workshops?
North Node is the space I opened in
Mhm.
Kingston, and I loved hearing you just create that sentence because I loved the poetry of hearing people use that title, the North Node, in a sentence of like a physical place. So um, it is based on an astrology term and is the direction your soul is going. So I wanted to create programming that had that as the umbrella, where it's um, we're all going in many different directions. Evolution and growth can be different for all of us. So I wanted to have a lot of different things. We mostly do yoga, dance, and meditation, um, things that have to do with embodiment and grounding, because I think that being in the body is so important on a spiritual practice that it can be really easy to get like way far out in the etheric and all of the ideas. So I wanted to create that route for people.
Yeah, I noticed you even have some astrology offerings.
Yeah.
What kinds of astrology offerings do you have?
Well, a couple of friends have come through. I would love to have you come through, do some teaching. Um, our friend Isa did some queer astrology classes where they looked at queer archetypes in the horoscope. And another friend came through who did, uh, his name's Ari Moshe Wolf, and he's an evolutionary astrologer. Um, so yeah, we don't have a like ongoing astrology thing, but we do a lot of special events.
Oh, very cool. And are there any plans for the future of the space? Streaming types of things? What are you
Yeah,
developing?
I'm just gonna keep on kind of feeling what people want and what works. We're continuing to add more classes to the local studio, and then I'm gonna start teaching online once Mercury goes direct. I've been like waiting for the moment, and finally I'm like, okay, I think this new moon, Mercury going direct, is the right time. And so hopefully it's an auspicious start to streaming my yoga classes. I teach 3 times a week, and then I'm going to teach a breathwork class on the internet. And we'll just kind of start there and see how it goes, if people like the internet or if they want to be all local.
Mm. Yeah, it's a good, yeah, that's great to have offerings for both. If enough, yeah, students are coming. Spaces, especially like those kinds of studios, yoga studios in general, they're tricky. Takes like, yeah, it takes a lot of heart and a lot of work to keep them going. And they're really only as good as the community that, because like you can't do that all by yourself.
Definitely.
It takes people who are also, supportive of that vision and adding to that vision. But I'm so glad. I'm just really glad that that's here.
Mm.
And it's, yeah, North Node. That's very special. Um, and now the astrology portion.
Yeah.
I mean, it was all the astrology portion, but what is your relationship to astrology if you have one, or how do you work with it if you do?
Um, I feel really like astrology helped me in a really difficult time of my life where I felt very lost, and it gave me something that I could hold on to and
Mm.
that I could apply myself to and that I could engage with and learn. Um, and it gave me information and language that I was like, oh, I can see it all coming together a little bit better. Like the world makes a little more sense. I wish I had learned that in school rather than difficult math. Like, I use calculus never. But like if I had learned astrology in high school, like my life would have been like would have opened up. Um, Now I use astrology more like low key. I kind of check in on it. I I would say it's pretty deep in my system where I can just look at the moon cycle and be like, oh, I'm gonna do this on the new moon. I'm gonna wait till the full moon next month to do this,
Mm.
or I'm gonna have a party, but I think I want to have it on the waning moon because I want to have like more of a chill, relaxing party with friends.
Mm.
So I definitely like use it, but I would say that I'm less um fatalistic about like, oh no, this is going to happen and I have to avoid it. And I'm scared to like go in my car because I'm having this, eclipse on my ascendant. And I think there was a time where like I was approaching astrology with a sense of fear and I was hoping that it would give me these answers that would help me to feel secure. And I think over time, it actually pointed me towards healing the places where I had some fears and coming more into trust, this flow and alignment that everything's kind of unfolding and that there's this deeper intelligence to life.
Hmm. No, I love that. What what signatures in your chart do you find that resonate with you most deeply?
Ugh. I feel pretty much like my chart. I think it's pretty accurate. I I definitely am a Libra sun, and I feel that. I feel the love of beauty and the connection to Venus and the connection to beautiful things. Being born gendered male and being very Venusian. I think that was a part of my early life as kind of struggling with my identity and how to like, yeah, like be in this world where you feel a little bit like you're not right or you're not like the way everyone else is. And now I feel like I've been able to find my way into like understanding what's beautiful in my own ways. Um, and yeah,
So the Libra sun. May I ask where your moon is?
So I'm a Capricorn moon.
Oh, interesting.
That has
Okay.
been trickier for me to integrate, and I've been working on it really hard. Lately, I think deciding to do my own thing as an entrepreneur and this idea of, yeah, creating spaces. The world is changing so much. And I think the studio thing is having physical businesses. There's so much change that's happening. And it's it's using my moon. It's putting my moon to good work. And it's changing my moon's hardness on myself, the self-criticism and the pressure I put on myself. And actually, I'm finding that by being more challenged and having to climb up this big mountain of this new project, that's actually good for my Capricorn moon.
It really is. That's really intuitively like so on point. Yeah, I know a good deal of Capricorn moons, and you're gonna get the usual patter about Capricorn moons. It's like, oh, that's like emotionally harsh, or you to feel safe, you need like a lot of structure. And these are like very like kind of I call pop astrology personality oriented astrology. But one of the ways the moon can express in a chart is the types of environments that you need to to feel good and to thrive. And so for a Capricorn moon, those would be situations where you feel like you are you are incrementally building something or giving something some kind of form or shape, and that provides that emotional sustenance
Yeah.
and satisfies that moon. But yeah, that's a very astute observation of your own chart.
And I think that's one of the cool ways to use astrology is rather than feel like, you're always going to be like this and you know, oh, because of my astrology, I'm always blank. Um,
Mm.
I think it's really cool to use it as a map to be like, how can I make this work? Like what do I need to understand about my inner world and my emotional self?
Yeah, beautiful. Um, Are there any things coming up that you would like to use this opportunity to plug?
Yeah, thanks for asking. I'm current always teaching yoga, which has really been like the Capricorn energy of the structure, really grounding and stabilizing. I think, yeah, that the world being so all over the place, I want the studio to be something stable that people can lean on, and that we're creating this community experience of holding each other and showing up for each other and getting to be together. And without bypassing any of the problems in the world. One of the events of the studio is called Possibilities Club, and it's
Mm.
with a person named Caroline, who I've been getting to know. And they're a climate activist, and they work in catastrophe um, research.
Ooh.
And so they're bringing in this awareness of where we are in history with mindfulness and somatics and meditation. So it's a really interesting place to talk about what's going on with the climate and the world and then kind of
Wow.
process it.
And is that like a monthly
Yeah, it's every other Thursday night at
every
7.
oh, so that's like twice a month.
Yeah,
That's
twice a month.
fairly regular.
Yeah.
Wow. What a wonderful offering.
Yeah. So that's, the type of stuff that I'm kind of finding, meeting people and then creating these gatherings and um yeah, hoping that it helps create just a place for people to land. Um, I'm doing breathwork classes every other Friday night, which is, have you done breathwork?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's definitely getting more popular. People, it, it's a simple way to have like basically a psychedelic experience, by oxygenating your blood, like really oxygenating your blood. It shifts your brain chemistry, and you get these natural release of like endorphins and like dopamine feel good chemicals. So it's a very easy and um, yeah, but profound way to have a meditative experience. It's like the back door to meditation. It's like the shortcut.
Yeah, breath work is really powerful. At the risk of, I don't want to like be profane about it, but it's a bit of a hack
Yeah,
into your
totally.
nervous system, for people who have trouble with controlling certain things like anxiety and what have you, all kinds of like emotional signaling. It's a tool. It's
Yeah.
an effective tool, but it's also, there's a sacred bit about it. It's like the breath is the metaphor for all living things and the contraction and expansion of the whole universe. Like,
Yeah.
and then when you think of it that way, it's like, wow, the breath is this huge sacred amazing thing, but it's also, it's just, it's our body. It's what our body does.
It's also really yeah, it's humble, which I think connects us to Virgo season. Like the humility of this profound thing being just your breath. And I think that there's so much in our um hyper like spirit marketplace, like the hyperness of it all, um, that can sometimes seem like it has to be so complicated or far away. And I like the simplicity of breathwork a lot.
Well, thank you so much, Luke, for sharing all of this with everyone, with
Mm,
me. I appreciate you being here. And I'm not good at goodbyes, and I don't
mm,
even really believe in goodbyes. So I'm just gonna say, see you around,
mm,
see you later. I'm still here, and there are a million ways to find me. And I have a feeling I'll be hanging out in the Radio Kingston studios here and there. So not goodbye. Take care, be well, and I'll see you around.
mm. See ya.